It's the fourth wedding anniversary of Omotoke and James. Omotoke, an average height, caramel skinned, beautiful woman, looking ravishing in a red Valentino dress James had gotten for her on her 28th birthday 2 months earlier. Toke is a senior designer for Paragon Luxury Interiors, one of the top five interior designing companies in the country. Hence, she earns a seven-figure salary, and on the side, she is into importation of luxury interior furniture and fittings from Italy. She's also into decorations for events where she has most of the first class citizens of the country as her clients. All these jobs altogether earn her a good amount of income. James, on the other hand, a handsome, dark skinned, and buffed African man, a gym instructor who isn't doing so bad. He is also a partner with Z Fitness, a fitness company that has been in existence for 7 years and is looking for ways and more partners to grow their business. Well, today is their first wedding anniversary as they take one final look at themselves in the mirror and also take some pictures before heading out for dinner at Cilantro Lagos, where James had reserved a table for two to celebrate their wedding anniversary. For starters, they had coconut fried plantain on onion slaw, topped with spicy curry sauce and fresh herbs, as they reminisce on how they met at Z Fitness. It was Toka's first day at the gym, and James was assigned to her as her personal trainer. They got along and kicked it off from there, with what seemed just like a trainer and trainee relationship so grew into a real romantic relationship, then marriage afterwards. For entree, Toke had grilled tiger prawns with sauteed vegetables and atarodo garlic sauce, with a side of grilled potatoes, while James had a 7 days marinated prime beef tenderloin, and they smiled at each other for ordering the same meals they ordered on their first official date 6 years ago at the same restaurant, prepared by the same chef, Chef Andrew Zeman, who seemed to know his onions. For dessert, Toke had a white chocolate peanut cake, while James settled with a glass of red wine. When it was time to make payments, Toke offered to pay, but James insisted he'd pay since it was a treat. James handed his card to the waiter, but the transaction did not go through due to some network glitch. So Toke asked that both she and the waiter steps outside with James's card and give it a try to see if it will go through outside. Afterwards, they went home. When they got home, Toke dropped her phone and paused on the bed and went into the restroom to freshen up and take her pills. Just then, a debit notification dropped on Toke's phone, and James, in a bid to get the phone to her, noticed it was a debit of the meals they had at dinner. So he became disappointed and angry that his beloved wife never ceases to make use of every opportunity to prove to him that she earns more than him. When Toke came out of the restroom, she tried to explain to him that his card had declined and that she just wanted to help her husband. After all, she could afford it and not attract unnecessary embarrassment after a beautiful meal. James replied, "You should have informed me. It was my treat. You just had to ruin it for me." That night, James slept in the guest room out of anger. Behind all that lovey-dovey we saw at the restaurant is a couple that never seem to agree on anything. One of the reasons being that James seems a little uncomfortable that his wife pays for everything, including rent, utility, groceries, and so on. But this makes James feel not man enough. Toke doesn't seem to see anything wrong with it. After all, she could afford it, and she thinks it's a place to help her husband. The following day, Toke tried to explain and apologize for what had happened the previous night, but James stopped her and told her he had to travel to Abuja to have an impromptu meeting with a prospective investor. Let me drive you to the airport at least, Toke offered. Don't bother yourself. Dari, my friend, is already on his way to take me to the airport, James replied. So she let him be. After James left, Toke got a call from her mother, Helen, that she would be coming to spend the weekend with her since she had decided not to visit. Toke wasn't too happy with the news of her mother coming to her house. At the same time, she thinks it's a good time since her husband won't be around because Helen doesn't approve of her husband, whom she thinks is beneath her. In fact, she still prays and hopes that her daughter leaves the man for a richer man. The next day, Toke tried to reach her husband over the phone, but could not get through to him. As she kept trying, the doorbell rang. It was James. Oh goodness, what happened to your phone? I've been trying to reach you. And why are you so back early? Didn't you go for the meeting again? Toke asked. I passed out at the airport and was rushed to the hospital, James said. What? What happened? Toke exclaimed. They said it was due to exhaustion and they had to call the last person I spoke to on my phone, which was Dari, before my battery went flat. But I'm okay now, though I missed the meeting. James replied, Oh goodness, and you were so angry with me that you could not call me your wife instead, Toke said. James apologized and they settled. Just as they were about to get it on, the bell rang again. Are you expecting someone? James asked. That must be my mother. She called earlier to inform that she was coming, Toke replied. James doesn't seem to be happy about this news and said, Oh no, not again. Toke said, I understand and I will try and put things under control this time. James left for the bedroom. As Toke opened the door to welcome her mother, the first thing she said on sighting James's picture on the wall was, So this man still lives in this house, parading himself as your husband. I thought by now you would have sent him out of this house because I know for sure he can't afford to pay the rent for this house. James decided to ignore what he had heard and, out of courtesy, welcome his mother-in-law. Welcome, mommy. Good to see you. No. Don't welcome me. I have not come here to see you. I have come to see my daughter. By the way, do you know my daughter regrets this marriage with you? Helen said. Mommy, why would you say a thing like that? Toke said. So I am a liar now. Or didn't you say that the marriage was a big mistake and that you would do everything to make sure you do not have a child with him? Helen replied. James, who seemed confused and disappointed after hearing all this, left for the bedroom. Toke asked her mother to leave with due respect and went in to explain things to James, who already was packing some of his clothes, said nothing to Toke, and left the house. Afterwards, Toke got a call from Dari, James's friend, to come to a hospital. There's an emergency. When Toke got to the hospital, she was informed that James passed out again and was unconscious at the moment. They ran some tests on him and realized that he had cancer of the lung. He had less than a year to live. This news broke Toke. She begged the doctor and Dari that they should please allow her break the news to him when he wakes up. She felt James had gone through so much disappointment in the last few months and that it would be best to break the news to him when he's happier. James was discharged after 1 week and he insisted he didn't want to go home with his wife after what had happened the last time when Ellen came to the house. Dari persuaded him to go home and sort things out with his wife. When they got home, Toke explained to him that truly she had been on contraceptives and that's because she wasn't sure she was ready to bring a child into a home like theirs, where they quarrel on every little thing. She wasn't happy about it. James was unhappy that his wife had been taking contraceptives, knowing fully well that he wanted children so much. Toke apologized and reassures her husband of her love, and they let bygones be bygones. This time, Toke had asked for leave from work so she could take care of her husband. She planned to make James's remaining days memorable for them. She even asked James if they could go on vacation, but he said that he could not afford that for now. Toke, who was trying to make peace with her husband, decided to let go of that idea, despite the fact that she could afford it. But they both agreed to stay at home together and stay away from work. Tucker stocked the house and bought different kinds of games. They tried to turn off their phones, especially James's phone, except when necessary in order to spend quality time together. Even as James' health deteriorates, with Tucker finding it hard to break the news to him. Darry thinks it's unwise to keep the news away from him for so long, but she's his wife and knows what's best for him. The least he could do was to make her see reasons. As his health grew worse, he fainted one afternoon and was taken to the hospital. Then the doctors had to inform him themselves that he was dying. This time, he felt more disappointed than ever because he doesn't understand why his wife would keep such news away from him. So he insisted he didn't want to see his wife. Tucker tried to respect his decisions for some time being, but still kept going to the hospital. Soon, Tucker found out that she was pregnant. This made her happy. She also saw it as an opportunity to see her husband, and maybe if he hears this, he will forgive her. James wasn't too happy about the news of him expecting a baby because the doctor had just told him he had only 5 months to live, as his health had deteriorated more than they expected. And this means that he won't be able to meet his child. But Tucker tried to console him that the doctors are not God, that they should hope for the best. When they got home, after they were discharged from the hospital, Tucker did everything in her power to take care of her husband, who at this time could barely stand on his own, while staying strong for her pregnant self, hoping that James will stay at least until the baby is born. Darry comes by the house almost every day to help out with a couple of things. He really proved to be a true friend in time of trouble. On James's next appointment at the hospital, the doctor advised him to undergo a surgical procedure if he wants to still be alive for another 4 weeks when his baby will be born, as his lungs were filled with fluid and that the cancer had progressed. Tucker agreed to the surgery. The next day, as James was wheeled into the theater, Tucker prayed and hoped that the surgery would be successful. But unfortunately, James didn't come out alive. On hearing this, Tucker developed some complications and had to have the baby through a cesarean section. She gave birth to a fine baby boy, whom she named after his father. Tucker was filled with mixed feelings. The death of her husband, who couldn't make it to see their baby and also have the privilege of nurturing him. On the other hand, the birth of their newborn. James, even though dead, left a piece of him to comfort Tucker after his death.